Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into a profound journey. We're looking at a 10th century text that completely flips our modern obsession with superpowers and magic right on its head. I mean, we all love a good superhero movie, right? But what if the ultimate superpower isn't, shooting lasers from your eyes or flying? What if it's something completely internal? We're going to explore this fascinating ancient philosophy from the Zongjing Lu, or the records of the Source Mirror, that completely redefines what it means to be truly powerful. Okay, let's dive into this. The text hits us immediately with this amazing, almost confrontational question. If we are equal to Buddhas, why don't we have supernatural powers? It's such a fantastic Socratic hook. If our fundamental human nature is supposedly identical to that of fully enlightened beings, why are we stuck in traffic instead of just teleporting? Why can't we read minds or levitate? This right here is the central paradox we're solving today, and the answer is absolutely fascinating. To start unpacking that, there's this really witty historical exchange in the text. A student comes up to Master Dawn and basically asks, "So, what are the supernatural powers of the Buddhas?" Master Dawn completely ignores the question and asks, "Where are you from?" The student says, "Jiangxi." The master asks, "Are you lying?" The student is like, "No, I'm telling the truth." And then the master says, "There, you're lying right now." It's a bit of ancient, dry humor, for sure, but the crucial takeaway is this: everyday, honest communication. Literally just existing in reality without the filters of ego and delusion, that is the true, unrecognized supernatural power. The text is basically arguing that we're using this profound power every single day, we just don't even realize it.
All right, moving on to section 1, true versus false magic, decoding the 5 powers.
So if everyday reality is the true magic, then what do we make of actual magic tricks or seemingly supernatural events? Well, the text actually categorizes these powers. First up, we have Yaotong, which is described as demonic or fake power. Think shape-shifting foxes, trickster spirits, or cheap parlor tricks. Then you have Baotong, which are karmic powers that ghosts or gods just happen to possess because of their nature. But the ultimate goal? That is Daotong, the true Dao power. Unlike the other two, which are all about manipulation and showing off, Daotong is the supreme, effortless power of an unobstructed mind. It responds perfectly to reality, kind of like a mirror, and it's completely free from the ego's constant need to perform. So, how exactly do you achieve this effortless Daotong? Well, it takes what the text calls true wisdom, or Genji. This is the profound realization that all things are inherently quiet, boundless, and utterly free of duality. This true wisdom, it's the engine behind true Dao power. It strips away all the fake, flashy illusions of the world, leaving only the pristine, mirror-like nature of the mind. It's really not about gaining some new magical skill. It's about realizing the incredible clarity that is literally already sitting right there in your head. Which brings us to section 2, breaking the dualities, the mind's architecture.
We're going to shift our focus inward now. We're stepping away from the distraction of external magic to look really closely at the internal architecture of the enlightened mind. And to understand this, we have to tackle a heavy philosophical term, non-duality. But stick with me, once we unpack it, it makes total sense. Non-duality is simply the realization that apparent opposites are actually just two interconnected sides of the exact same unified mind. You know how we naturally love to put things in separate boxes? Good versus bad, self versus other, internal versus external? Well, the text argues that these strict borders are just an illusion created by our own narrow thinking. The true mind doesn't have those borders at all.
Master Yansho's 10 non-dualities brilliantly illustrates this concept. Take a look at pairings like internal versus external, cause versus effect, or pure versus impure. Master Yansho is saying that the mind unites what ordinary people perceive as strictly separate things. For example, the external world you see right now, it's actually being completely processed and constructed by your internal mind. You literally cannot have one without the other. Recognizing this underlying unity, that is the true magical shift in perspective. I absolutely love this next point because it uses pure logic to totally dismantle our desire for supernatural powers. The idea is that enlightenment is a transformation of the mind, not a change in physical form. The source tells this hilarious but super profound story about Master Nuto. A king challenged him, basically saying, "I'll only believe you're a spiritual master if you can shoot fire from one arm and water from the other, while flying." Master Nuto's response? He basically said, look, if enlightenment was just physical shapeshifting, a common street illusionist or some mythical demon would be a Buddha. The ultimate transformation is cognitive. It's about how you perceive reality, not whether you can physically alter it. Let's move right into Section 3, Sudden Awakening, Natural Practice. This brings us to a famous ancient debate. Is enlightenment a sudden lightning strike, or is it a slow, grueling climb up a mountain? Think about your own learning moments for a second. Sometimes you have an instant aha moment where everything just clicks. But other times, you have to study and practice for months just to master a new skill. So, how do time, effort, and practice actually relate to ultimate spiritual awakening according to this philosophy? Well, the text gives us a brilliant answer using the metaphor of the lamp and the wick. It argues that enlightenment is fundamentally nonlinear. The first flame, that's the sudden realization of your true nature, that instant flash of insight. But the final burning out of the wick represents the gradual, slow destruction of deep-seated habits, biases, and ignorance. You can't start burning away the wick of ignorance without that initial sudden spark. But the spark alone doesn't instantly consume the whole wick, right? It takes both the initial sudden awakening and the continuous natural burning of practice to get there. Let's see how this builds with another beautiful analogy the text uses, the Mani jewel. Here's how it unfolds. 1, the jewel is discovered within the mind. It's actually already there, perfectly formed. You just have to uncover it through that sudden spark of awareness. 2, it's polished by natural practice. Over time, you gently clear away the dirt of daily delusions. And 3, once it's polished, it naturally rains treasures to help others. Our inherent nature is found, effortlessly refined, and ultimately used to benefit the world. You don't force it. You literally just get out of your own way and let the jewel shine. And that leads us perfectly into Section 4, the everyday miracle, living the true power. We've gone inward to understand the architecture of the mind, and now we are bringing the journey back outward. What does this enlightened state actually look like when a person is just walking down the street, going to work, or sipping a cup of tea? Well, it looks exactly like this profound paradox. A big body hides in formlessness. A great voice hides in silence. When you have completely mastered your mind, you don't need to fly through the air or shoot fire to prove it. True greatness doesn't require flashy, magical displays. The absolute ultimate expression of power is total harmony with reality. It's walking without leaving footprints. It's living so seamlessly with the world that your actions are perfectly quiet, unforced, and yet deeply, profoundly impactful. There's a famous historical figure mentioned in the text, Layman Pang, who really hits the nail on the head here. He says, "Ordinary people value gold, I value momentary stillness. If the mind is unobstructed, why worry about lacking supernatural powers?" I mean, let that sink in for a second. In a world that is constantly chasing wealth, status, and the illusion of absolute control, Layman Pang is telling us that inner peace is the ultimate magic trick. An unobstructed mind is a mind that is entirely free, and a free mind is far, far more powerful than any supernatural illusion. Which leaves us with this final thought. We spend so much time looking for magic outside of ourselves, right? Waiting for a superhero to save us or some massive miracle to change our circumstances. But this ancient text tells us the true miracle is already happening right under our noses. So I have to ask you, how can you recognize the profound miracle hidden in your own ordinary life today? How can you use your mind's true architecture to find stillness right now? Take that question with you. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.